Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 2nd Maccabees, the 14th chapter. After 3 years was Judas informed that Demetrius, the son of Seleucus, this is Demetrius the first Soter, son of Seleucus the fourth Philopator, having entered by the haven of Tripolis with a great power and navy, had taken the country and killed Antiochus, this being Antiochus the fifth Eupator, son of Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes, and Lysias his protector. Now one Alcimus, who had been high priest and had defiled himself willfully in the times of their mingling with the Gentiles. So back when, when the Israelites were, going after the ways of the Gentiles heavily, right, during the reign of Antiochus, this guy Alcimus, was also a willful partaker in that. Seeing that by no means he could save himself, nor have any more access to the holy altar, because everybody knew basically what he had done. He came to King Demetrius in the 150th year, presenting unto him a crown of gold and a palm, and also of the bowls which were used solemnly in the temple. And so that day he held his peace. So he brought these things unto him, but he didn't really do much talking that day. Howbeit, having gotten opportunity to further his foolish enterprise, and being called into council by Demetrius, and asked how the Jews soon affected, and what they intended, he answered thereunto. So basically, he waited for his opportunity, and once Demetrius called him to inquire about the state and affairs of the Jews, this was his answer. Those of the Jews that he called Assyrians, whose captain is Judas Maccabeus, nourish war and are seditious, and will not let the rest be in peace. See, so he basically started to speak evil of Judas Maccabees and his men, trying to say that they are, tyrannical, they're troubling the people, they're not trying to, let the land rest, and so on. They just love war. Therefore I, being deprived of mine ancestors' honor, I mean the high priesthood, am now come hither. For first, verily, for the unfeigned care I have of things pertaining to the king, and secondly, even for that I intend the good of mine own countrymen. So he's lying his ass off, making it seem like, he's coming here really because he cares first and foremost about the king's affairs, and then for the good of his people. For all our nation is in no small misery through the unadvised dealing of them aforesaid. So he's making it seem like Judas Maccabees and his men are causing the people of the nation to be in misery and stressed and anger and all that. Verse 9. Wherefore, O king, seeing, which should be seeing thou, knowest all these things, be careful for the country and our nation, which is pressed on every side, according to the clemency that thou readily shewest unto all. So he's speaking smooth words into the king's ears, saying, don't just overlook this, right? According to your clemency that you show to all, do something about this on our behalf. Don't just leave us at the mercy of these wicked men. For as long as Judas liveth, it is not possible that the state should be quiet. This was no sooner spoken of him, but others of the king's friends, being maliciously set against Judas, did more incense Demetrius. So some of the king's friends that were also, led to be against Judas can act Demetrius on to be, more and more into this mindset. And forthwith calling Nicanor, who had been master of the elephants, and making him governor over Judea, he sent him forth, commanding him to slay Judas and to scatter them that were with him, and to make Alcimus high priest of the temple, of the great temple. Then the heathen that had fled out of Judea from Judas came to Nicanor by flocks, thinking the harm and calamities of the Jews to be their welfare. So they immediately rallied behind Nicanor, thinking that with him and his troops going to take out the Jews, that would be good for them. Now, when the Jews heard of Nicanor's coming and that the heathen were up against them, they cast earth upon their heads and made supplication to him that had established his people forever, being the Most High, and who always helpeth his portion with manifestation of his presence. So via the Lord's presence, his divine intervention, he always helped Israel. So at the commandment of the captain, they removed straightways from thence, and came near unto them at the town of Desal. So Nicanor's army was on the move. Now Simon, Judas's brother, had joined battle with Nicanor, but was somewhat discomfited through the sudden silence of his enemies. So he went and he basically engaged with him, but he was losing because of this strategy, okay, that their adversaries or their enemies were using. Nevertheless, Nicanor, hearing of the manliness of them that were with Judas, and the courageousness that they had to fight for their country, durst not try the matter by the sword. So after hearing all these things and getting more detail about Judas and his brethren and so on, he decided, no, he's not gonna approach this through war and go at it with them. Wherefore he sent Posidonius and Theodotus and Mattathias to make peace. So when they had taken long advisement thereupon, and the captain had made the multitude acquainted therewith. So once they thought about this, you know what, let's actually make peace with them. And then the captain ended up breaking the news to the soldiers, letting them know what the deal is. And it appeared that they were all of one mind. They consented to the covenants, and appointed a day to meet in together by themselves. And when the day came, the stools were set for either of them. So basically, they sent the terms and agreements of this peace treaty or deal, and then they set a certain time to come and meet and really solidify things. Ludus, which should say Judas, placed armed men ready in convenient places, lest some treachery should be suddenly practiced by the enemies. So they made a peaceable conference. So Judas came prepared, right? He's like, all right, just in case they want to get stupid, we got enemies. I mean, we got men in certain places. Now Nicanor abode in Jerusalem and did no hurt, but sent away the people that came flocking unto him. And he would not willingly have Judas out of his sight, for he loved the man from his heart. So he actually ended up really liking Judas. He prayed him also to take a wife and to beget children. So he married, was quiet, and took part of this life. That's Judas, right? He basically persuaded Judas to, try to live a normal life, get married, have children and all that. But Alcimus, perceiving the love that was betwixt them, and considering the covenants that were made, came to Demetrius and told him that Nicanor was not well affected toward the state. So seeing that, he got mad because he's like, damn, this isn't going according to his plan, Alcimus that is. So he goes and slanders or speaks against Nicanor to Demetrius, saying this guy, he's not doing the things that are going to be beneficial to your reign, to your kingdom. For that he had ordained Judas a traitor to his realm to be the king's successor. So basically he's saying, look, this guy is trying to set up Judas, in a position of to rise up to a position of even greater power. Then the king, being in a rage and provoked with the accusations of the most wicked man, being Alcimus, wrote to Nicanor, signifying that he was much displeased with the covenants, and commanding him that he should send Maccabees prisoner in all haste unto Antioch. So he gave him a commandment. He said, look, you better bring Judas over here. When this came to Nicanor's hearing, he was much confounded in himself, and took it grievously that he should make void the articles which were agreed upon, the man being in no fault, right? So he was really hurt and upset that he would have to make void the the contracts, you could say, or the articles, as it says, that they all basically agreed, right? And Judas, or his part, didn't break any of those, and yet he would have to. It's kind of like just going back on your word. But because there was no dealing against the king, he watched his time to accomplish this thing by policy. So he couldn't go against the king's commandment, so he decided to go along with it. So then he started plotting for a time when, as it says here, he could accomplish this thing by policy, right? Like through some crafty, well thought out plan. Notwithstanding, when Maccabees saw that Nicanor began to be churlish unto him, so he had a hostile attitude against him, and that he entreated him more roughly than he was wont, so than he used to, perceiving that such sour behavior came not of good, he gathered together not a few of his men and withdrew himself from Nicanor. So Judas, being smart, perceived, yeah, if he's behaving like this, something is going on and it's not good. So he gathered his men and he basically, separated himself from Nicanor. But the other, being Nicanor, knowing that he was notably prevented by Judas's policy, so he knew, damn, his plan wouldn't work because Judas was too smart. He figured it out. Came into the great and holy temple and commanded the priests that were offering their usual sacrifices to deliver him the man, that is Judas. And when they swear that they could not tell where the man was whom he sought, he stretched out his right hand toward the temple and made an oath in this manner: if ye will not deliver me Judas as a prisoner, I will lay this temple of God even with the ground, and I will break down the altar and erect a notable temple unto Bacchus. So he spoke very proudly, saying he would destroy the Lord's temple, break it down, and build a temple to a idol, a heathen deity in the stead. After these words he departed. Then the priests lifted up their hands toward heaven and besought him that was ever a defender of their nation, being the Lord, saying in this manner: Thou, O Lord of all things, who has need of nothing, was pleased that the temple of thine habitation should be among us. Therefore now, O Lord, O holy Lord of all holiness, keep this house forever undefiled, which lately was cleansed, and stop every unrighteous mouth. Now was the thing accused unto Nicanor. Slakia, now was there accused unto Nicanor Razis, one of the elders of Jerusalem, a lover of his countrymen, and a man of very good report, for who his kindness was called a father of the Jews. So he was a good man, right? Everybody knew him, everybody loved him. He was so kind, they referred to him as like a father of the Jews. For in the former times, when they mingled not themselves with the Gentiles, he had been accused of Judaism and did boldly jeopardize his body and life with all vehemency for the religion of the Jews. So during the time of the heavy Hellenization, he was accused of Judaism. Right? Remember, there was a policy that you couldn't call yourself a Jew, and you couldn't keep the ancient feasts and Sabbath days and so on. But he was doing this secretly. So Nicanor, willing to declare the hate that he bare unto the Jews, sent above 500 men of war to take him, being this Razis, for he thought by taking him to do the Jews much hurt. So he thought he would really trigger them if he captured this man. Now when the multitude would have taken the tower and violently broken into the outer door, and bade that fire should be brought to burn it, he, being ready to be taken on every side, fell upon his sword. So this Razis, being held up in that tower or that fortress, he thought it better to die, right? Choosing rather to die manfully by falling on his sword than to come into the hands of the wicked, and to be abused otherwise than beseemed his noble birth, right? So rather than to suffer that kind of humiliation and death by the hands of the wicked, he would rather die manfully. But missing his stroke through haste, the multitude also rushing within the doors, he ran boldly up to the wall. So he missed that vital, I guess, organ and whatnot in trying to fall upon his sword. And so when he missed that, and the multitude that were sent came in, they were basically breaking through to rush upon him. It says he ran boldly to the wall and cast himself down manfully among the thickest of them. So he basically jumped out the window, um, or as it says, over the wall, and among the thickest of them, right? So basically into a crowd. But they quickly giving back and a space being made, he fell down into the midst of the void place. So he ended up falling right to the ground. Nevertheless, there was yet breath within him. Being inflamed with anger, he rose up, and though his blood gushed out like spouts of water, and his wounds were grievous, yet he ran through the midst of the throng, and standing upon a steep rock. So he jumps out this window. He's basically bleeding all over the place, and with his final breath, he runs, gets to the top of this steep rock. When as his blood was now quite gone, so he was basically having been I forgot the term that is for it, but he basically bleeded out. He plucked out his bowels and taking them in both his hands. So his bowels are his intestines, his inner parts. He basically pulled them out and grabbed them, right, with his, as it says. So this was likely through the cut that he got when he tried to fall upon his sword, but ended up missing. Anyway, it says here, and taking them in both his hands, he cast them upon the throng, and calling upon the Lord of life and spirit to restore him those again. He thus died. So that's how he died, right? He basically, took himself out, prayed for the Lord to restore the things that he lost there back to him again. And that brings us to the end of the book of 2nd Maccabees, the 14th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Wadash. And until next time, Shalom.